Hey, welcome back to the Pod Podcast. Glad you're tuning in. Jeremy Todd, the host, back live from the world headquarters here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Hey, today's day three of really crushing and having the biggest year ever. Day number one was mindset. Go back and listen to the mindset episode. It's really talking about getting focused and making sure we know what to expect. Number two is schedule. Is really locking that week to week schedule down to try and get the most out of it, to be as efficient as possible, to make sure we really go after our long term goals and short term goals and all the other stuff. But today we're gonna talk about those goals, and how I kind of analyze them. And we've heard them so cliche: short term, midterm, long term. Whatever it is, the short term is in a month, 2 months, midterm 6 months, and the year, and a long term maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Whatever the case is, those are cool. But what I mean, and again, there's variations. I'm not saying that's not right or that's not wrong. That's right and wrong, right? I mean, hell, I don't know. It's whatever works good for you. But today I want to go over how I, on this time around with my goals, how I'm going to prepare and focus on them. We're going to go through the short term and quote unquote midterm and long term goals, but I'm really looking at just for more like a year ish. But let's talk about it. Let's get into it. First of all, short term goals. I wrote a few things down here, and I want to make sure that this really makes sense, because short term can be very short term, and it can be up to, for me, a month to 2 months. Number one, we got to be prepared for our goals. So and for whatever that means, is just making sure, if you go back to day one and day two, with being prepared, with having our mindset right and having our schedule right. That is a short-term goal, but if we can actually create that schedule and make sure we're efficient going into and chasing these other bigger numbers, that's something you got to keep in mind. We got to be efficient, we got to be laser focused, and we've got to be ready to really go after those goals. Another thing about short-term goals is they need to be extremely attainable. Yes, I said they got to be easy. I don't want short-term goals to be colossal that we can't even accomplish. What they should be is just small steps towards a long-term goal. Again, they don't have to be huge. They could be something small. Hey, if I'm going to try and lose weight in the next month, I'm going to try and lose 10 pounds or 5 pounds or 20 pounds, whatever small, whatever that definition of small you have. It's got to be very small, but it's got to be extremely attainable. We've got to get that momentum going. We got to get that momentum to start checking those things off our list. We've talked about a checklist in the past episodes where we go, from day after day after day, we put everything on our checklist and we check off the easy things. Eventually we get to the big things, so sometimes they take a little bit longer. But for example, for these short-term goals, we got to make sure they're extremely attainable up front. Now, again, when I say extremely attainable, they are attainable, but they are geared towards going our long-term goals. It's getting that momentum. It's like pushing that snowball down the hill. And as it starts really small, it's easy to push, right? And then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And all of a sudden it's rolling down the hill, and then we're fired up and things gigantic and life is good, right? So that's what we really want to focus on and keep that perspective. So it can be very small. And again, I guess the third thing about that is really the whole point for me on a short-term goal is to gain that momentum. So for example, I'm going to go over some of my goals. I'm not going to go over all of them. I've got, some big goals. I got some personal goals, but these are 3 and 4 goals, and I'm going to tell you how we're going to tie it into how I kind of put this in my head for my goals. One of the things I want to do is I want to have $3,000 of residual income by July 1st. And really what that means for the people that don't know is I want to be able to make 3 grand every single month without doing a thing, whether it be through book sales, whether it be through programs that I'm going to be launching here in the next probably week to 2 weeks. Anything that I can get kind of additional income that it's constantly coming in is residual income. I'm going to be looking for help. I'm going to be reaching out. I'm going to be trying to do things. You're going to see me all over the place. But my goal is to have $3,000 a month for residual income by July. Okay, so that for me is kind of a long-term goal. Okay, that's 7 months or 6 months out. So as I do these smaller goals, what I'm doing is making these smaller attainable goals. I want to set up my webinar to where I can actually sell something. If I don't have anything set up, I can't sell it long term. So those are the things that are going through my head. Another one I want to have long term is I want to have 1,000 YouTube subscribers by July 1st. Again, my long term goal is going to be July, and I'm going to tell you why in just a minute when we get into the midterm and long term. Another thing is I want to have 15,000 people on my Facebook page, which we got 12,000. Again, it's attainable, but it's a little bit of a stretch. It's not easy getting another 1,000 people or 500 people every month for the next 6 months. I want to sell 3,000 books. all these are going to get tied together for what I want to do long term for these goals. And again, long term for me is 6 months. I'm not making it a year, 2 years, 3 years. And again, there's nothing wrong with that either. That's not a bad idea to have long term goals. But for me and this go around, that's what I'm focused on. So, number two, I have a midterm, but I'm changing the goal to midterm phase because what I want to do is I want to kind of phase out some of the stuff that's not working. And I want to refocus on the stuff that is working. So, this is going to be like 3 months out, a solid 3 to 8, maybe even 4 months out. And some of the things I talked about, or I'm thinking about as I go through these midterm phases or midterm goals, or however you want to describe them. Number one is I want to reorganize. When you first start these short-term goals, and maybe my long-term goal is, let's say, if you go back to the 1,000 YouTube subscribers in July, if I hit that by March or April as a midterm for my long-term, I need to reevaluate that goal, right? I mean, I need to reorganize it. Let's say, for example, on my Facebook page, if I get no additional followers, I want to be at 15. Let's say I'm at 12 still, I'll go backwards. I need to reevaluate what I'm doing and make sure that I need to either come up with a new game plan or even get a new goal, get a completely new goal. I mean, that's okay too. Throw that sucker out because again, we change. Our life changes, our opportunities change. And if we hog tie ourselves to these hardcore, hard-line goals that may be the long-term goal or even a midterm goal, sometimes it's just not worth it. Let's be honest. It's like if I start reading a book and the book sucks, I just put the book down. I'm not going to force myself to read a shitty book. But it's the same thing with that goal. I'm not going to force myself for a shitty goal if 3 months from now I don't want to do it or if I don't have any interest. That doesn't mean I'm going to quit on it. But again, priorities change and opportunities come up. And I'm not going to strap myself and then beat myself up about, oh my God, I got to finish this shitty goal that I want to. Doesn't make any sense. So the midterm phase or midterm, however you want to put it, is reorganize. Second part of it, I kind of mentioned it, was evaluate the actual results. Let's see where I'm at. Take that 5,000 foot view. Ask other people, hey, this is what I've done. What do you think? So what else should I do? Or am I exceeding? What's working well? It's important to know where you are. It's important to know the numbers. If you don't know the numbers, how do you track how well you're doing? And I'm not a big number guy, but it's nice about with all the things that I'm using, it's pretty easy to track. But it's easy. If I'm going to try and get these numbers by July and I'm 40% or 70%, what's working well? What can I kick into the next level? And what can I maybe increase? So let's just say things are going well on my YouTube channel where let's say I have 1,000. Maybe I need to shoot for 3,000 by July. And that gives me an opportunity midterm phase to really dig back into these and say, do these make sense? And do I need to change them? Again, ask for feedback. I think that's extremely, extremely important. Hey, and ask professionals. You can ask anybody really, but ask professionals that are in your field. There's a great tip that I like to talk about. And what I like to do with a lot of my clients is I talk about mirroring. And mirroring is very, very easy. It's just thinking, hey, this is the Positive Side podcast. Let me go over another podcast friend of mine and let's be honest and let's see where our numbers are. Hey, I'm increasing in this area. I'm increasing in that area. And for you, it could be health. Hey, I've lost this much weight and maybe I haven't been on the bench as much. Find someone that's relatively your age and relatively your shape and ask what's working. If you started an online business, find another online business that's very similar to yours. Reach out to them. Say, hey, I'm just curious. If I share some results with you, will you share what's working for you? Why not? The more people that go to that win in life, the better life is for everybody. I don't want to see anybody lose. I want everybody to be extremely successful. I'll share everything that I'm doing. One of the things about sharing is the hardest thing for people to do is when you get that information, do you actually use it? So again, big part is finding someone else, sharing the results, and asking for help. And then the fourth part of that midterm phase really is just resetting those goals. And it's okay. Let's say March 1st comes rolling around or April 1st comes around, whenever I decided, probably April 1st, that says, hey, this isn't working. I need to reevaluate where I am, and maybe I need to focus more on Instagram. I can add Instagram on there and put it into the exact same goal system that I'm in. Just because I start March 1st doesn't mean it's got to be end on July 1st. Maybe that's a whole new set of long-term goals where I put, hey, at the end of October 1st, I want to have 2,000 people on Instagram. You just reevaluate those and reevaluate your timelines. But it's important to write these things out. As you notice, the vision board is gone. The vision board is going to get redone here in the next few days. I'm working on it. I'm trying to find the right numbers. I'm going to put these numbers back on the board. We'll see those as we do these podcasts, but I'm also going to see them visually. And then long-term goals, let's just get into it. And this is what you have to prepare mentally when you start hitting these goals. And I've talked about it over and over and over, is when you accomplish these goals, you're going to have people come out of the woodwork that are going to hate on you. They're going to say it's not going to work. Why are you doing it? And believe me, I've seen them left and right. It was funny today. I went on to the news. The local news stations called Wayne TV went and did a quick piece on me, and it was cool. But I went just for the hell of it. I went to the Facebook page today and check out their at that timeline, and there was one response in there. It just says "Stop it." And I'm like, you know what? That's great. That just reiterates it. You know, hey Jeremy, you're cool. You're on TV, but you got to stop it, right? So I just laughed that off. I thought it was cool, but I'm expecting that. You know, it's expecting that to come. Number 2 is celebrate the wins. When you accomplish goals, celebrate them. Celebrate them. Tell people about them. Take yourself out to a nice dinner. It's okay to celebrate the wins. It's okay to pat yourself on the back and say, damn it, you're good at this. In a society that we live in, we don't have a lot of opportunity where people are saying, hey, good job. Hey, that was nicely done. And when we do accomplish a goal, it's okay to tell yourself that. It's like making yourself feel good by understanding what you've done and how hard you worked. Just because no one's saying a great job, it doesn't mean you can. You can go out and do something nice, buy yourself a new shirt, buy yourself new shoes, whatever the case is. But it's so important to celebrate those wins, because again, it's like if you plant the fruit and the fruit grows, and then all of a sudden you get these apples on the tree and you just let them off and fall off and rot. You never had the chance to taste what victory actually tastes like. It's the best. So again, celebrate the wins. And number 3, evaluate the failures. What didn't work? Be honest with yourself. Say, hey, I didn't get 1,000 YouTube subscribers. Was I consistent enough with content? That's a real question. Be honest with yourself and say what didn't work and why didn't it work. But you got to be extremely honest with yourself. You can't go back to selling yourself the reasons why it didn't work out. Hey, I was sick. I hurt myself. I lost my job. And yeah, they're real, whatever, but they're still excuses. If the goal's important, you'll find a way. If not, you're going to find an excuse. And we've heard that saying before 1,000 different times. And number 5, again, I've kind of talked about it, is resetting. If you accomplish these goals. So for example, when I accomplish my goals of 3,000 residual income, 1,000 YouTube subscribers, 15,000 people on Facebook, and 3,000 sold books, when I accomplish those, then I'm going to look at the next 6 months. You know, imagine what 6 months from now is going to look like, right? I love saying that. Imagine what the next 6 months is going to look like. Am I going to shoot for $6,000 of residual income and maybe 4,000 people on YouTube? All these things are extremely important, but I don't want to drag them out for a full year. I think we can get a lot more done in a shorter period of time when we talk about short-term, midterm, and long-term. I look at midterms more of a reevaluation. It's kind of like a gut check and just seeing where we're at, and then allows you to kind of supercharge. It's like one of those cars that you pull backwards on the ground and then you let go and it goes flying again. It's okay to go back a little bit and then let that sucker go, and then you take off again. That's what I'm excited about for 2021. It's going to be way better than 2020, and I'm hoping you're on board. If you haven't gone to the iTunes, this is where the podcast started, was iTunes. Run over to iTunes, subscribe, leave those 5-star reviews. It means the world. It allows other subscribers to find it. If you haven't been on YouTube, click the subscribe button. I've got, I think 120. So I've got 880 people to go. And I hope that you're one of them. Run over to jeremytodd.com, grab that book. It'll change your life. I promise you. If you got any questions, email me, jeremy@jeremytodd.com. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you watching. Like always, this is The Positive Side.